Hello my dear students, welcome to computer science class. So, we are going to start with a new chapter, that is control statements. So, this chapter is very important children, because in this chapter we are going to study various selection statements, jumping statements which are being required for your programming concepts, like loops we are going to study, like for loops, while loop, do while loop, and selection statements like if else, okay, else if ladder, okay. So such concepts we are going to study under this chapter. Now let us begin with the chapter here. Before we start with the any looping, we shall know some of the definitions which are required. Okay, usually in C++ programmings, we have certain set of instructions. Am I right? And the compiler, as I said in my previous classes, live classes also, step by step it will start compiling. Okay, step by step execution takes place. Same way, in any of the C programming, okay, if the statements are executed sequentially, that means sequentially in the sense in the order which they have written, if such way the programs are getting executed, then we can call them as the sequential structures. See, sequential in the sense what? Step by step. Now this is first step, this is second step, this is third step. If any other definition, this is fourth step, fifth step. Suppose in the C++ program, if the execution is happening step by step, okay, which means the terminology what we are using is sequentially, in the order which we have written the program, in the same order if they are executing, then I can call them as a sequential structures. Moving on to the next definition here, that is during processing it may bifurcate or repeat or take certain decision, so the C++ provides us the control structure. See, as I said, the sequential structures are the one wherein line by line execution takes place. Suppose at certain point of a time, if I want the loop to be repeated, or if I want to skip certain statements, if based upon the condition, if the condition is true, then only certain set of statements will be executed, else those certain set of statements to be skipped. In that case, the C++ programming provides us that is a concept known as control structures. Understood? Then what is this control structure actually? For what reason we have to use this control structure? Control structures include the statements. It includes the statements which can alter the flow of the sequence of instruction. So, just now I said, I want certain steps of instructions to be repeated. Okay, in that case what happens? You are not going to execute sequentially. For certain steps, for certain steps you are executing sequentially, but there will be certain condition comes where you need to repeat certain set of statements. In that case, the flow of the control or the flow of sequence will definitely change. And certain situation comes where, like if I have an example I'll give. If age is greater than 18, then I'll print it as eligible to vote, else not eligible to vote. Like that I may print. See, if age is greater than 18, suppose some person may enter as 22, then what printout statement it will execute? That he is eligible to vote. Whether the control goes to execute that he is not eligible to vote? No. That part of or that set of instruction will never get executed at all. So in that case, that is what is bifurcation, or you may say that we are making certain decisions based upon certain condition. To do that, the C++ have provided with the control structures, and these control structure, why mainly we are using? Because these control structures may alter the flow of sequence of instructions depending upon the situation. Therefore, the control structures are very important. I hope you are able to understand. Moving on to the next one, the very simple statement. What is simple statement? Any input statement it might be, or any assignment statement, or any output statement. Like input statement means scene statement. Assignment, I can say int a is equal to 10. Now this is a simple assignment statement. Or output statement is what? The statement that includes the cout, that is cout object, that is console output. So any such statements can be considered as the simple statement in the C++ programming. I hope you are able to understand. Once again, when we see with the program, programs, that time I can clearly show you how exactly the control is changing from the sequential order, what kind of loopings we are taking, and what do you mean by simple statements. That I'll be explaining when I start with the programs. Now you just need to understand this definition. Clear? Moving on to the compound statement. Students, this question is very important, compound statement or the block, because in previous examination only, last once the students who has faced the P1 examination, they had this question as what is a block. So what is a block? Block is nothing but the group of statements which are being separated by semicolon and they are enclosed in curled braces. See, in our other videos we have seen the programs. Am I right? So we have seen the structure of C++ program also. After the main function, we have used the flower bracket which indicates the beginning of the program, and then lastly after certain set of instructions, after we write it, and those all set of instructions or the statements were being separated by the semicolon, and at the time of ending our program you can even see the closing bracket. Then such statements which are being separated by the semicolon and which are being enclosed under the curled braces can be referred to as a block or a compound statement. Okay, in further topic I'll show you what is block or the compound statement. Okay, then moving on to, now here see, now this I can call it as a simple statement. Can you see? So usually in C++ we came across the simple statement or the compound statement. So simple statement is a one which any printing statement, it might be any printing statement or it might be any input statement with a cin, or it might be any of the assignment statement. Then I can call it, refer it as a simple statement. Now look at this, I can call this one as a compound statement. Just now we have seen the definition. What is a compound statement? Compound statements are the group of statements wherein they are being separated by the semicolons. Can you see? They have been separated by the semicolon and they have been enclosed under the opening and the closing brackets. Therefore, I can call these as the compound statement, or else I can even call them as the block. So I hope you are able to understand what's the difference between the simple statement and what is the difference between that is with the simple statement and the compound statement. I can say this one as a block, or I can say this as compound statement. I can refer this to be as an example for the simple statement. Now moving on to the next one here. What do you mean by flow of control? Flow of control in the sense the order in which the statements are executed in a program is referred to as flow of control. That means whether it is a sequential or whether it's a bifurcation. Now just look at this program segment. What it is given, if A is greater than B, if this condition is true, then only the true part of the statement will be executed as the first statement, that is Cout. That means it's a printing. Cout stands for console output. A is largest. What if this condition is false? If this condition is false, the true part of the statement will not execute. Instead, the else part in the sense that is a false part. So the false part of the statement will be executed. Now can you say that whether all the statements are sequentially executed? No. Now this is a condition statement. Based upon condition, I am deciding whether certain set of statements to be executed or not. So this process, what it is telling, it telling me the flow of control. See, control. Now let me assume the value of A to be as 10 and let me assume the value of B to be as 50. Okay. Now what I am telling, whether if 10 is greater than 50, if so, print A is largest, else print B is largest. Now what you will do, whether 10 is greater than 50, no, your condition is false. Therefore, the else part or the false part of the statement is executing. So isn't it, it is telling you the flow of control. From here, your control has to jump to the false part and it should skip the true part and your control has to execute the false part. Isn't it, it is telling you that is the flow of execution. Therefore, I can refer this as a flow of control. It means the order in which the statements are executed in a program is referred to as a flow of control. I hope children you are able to understand. Now moving on to the next one, a very important and a very interesting one. What is a flow chart? Children, actually this part is not there in your syllabus. I mean, for this chapter it is not there. It is coming under the another chapter, that is problem solving methodology. Since we have started with this chapter, before I begin with the actual concepts, I just wanted to show the symbols and for what these are used, because these flow chart we are going to study in the further classes. So here, what is a flow chart? Flow chart is nothing but it's a pictorial representation of a solution to any problem. That means what? Any program. Okay, now we have seen in our previous video classes, write a C++ program to find the area and circumference of a circle. Now the same program, I can write it in the form of flow chart. I can write that same program in the form of pictorial representation by providing a solution to the problem. That is, what is my problem? My problem is to find the area and the circumference of a circle. So this instead of writing the program, I can represent that program in the form of the pictorial representation. That is nothing but the flow chart. I hope you are able to understand. Then what exactly the flow chart is using? Flow chart is using the predefined symbols. What do you mean by predefined? Means already it has been defined as one particular, this symbol is for the beginning, this one of the symbol is for the input, one symbol. You cannot change the shapes. Already it has been predefined in the software. So this flow chart is using some of the predefined symbol in order to describe what? Input, in order to describe processing, and in order to describe the output. Now let us know here. The first one is the oval. The first one is the name is oval and the symbol is this way, and this symbol actually marks the beginning or the end of the program. Now next is the parallelogram. The name of this symbol is what? Parallelogram. Now this one, as I said, we are going to represent the program in the pictorial form. So in the program, what all will be there? Input statement like declaration statement, variable declaration like int a, 10, b, 15. That is declaration section. That variable declaration section act as now input. Next we have the printing statement. Am I right? Like cout, enter the values of two variables. Okay, or the entered numbers are, like that you have the printing statements and input. And then afterwards what we have? Calculation. After calculation we have to print it and we are ending the program. So for all that we have the pictorial representation known as flow chart, and these flow chart are using the predefined symbols in order to describe input, processing as well as output. So therefore the first one is the oval. So this is the symbol that is used to mark the beginning of the program. Next we have the parallelogram. Please kindly make the difference between, this is not a rectangle, there is a parallelogram here. So this actually marks the input or the output. Suppose like cout, if I want to give the output cout statement like enter the two numbers, in that case I need to use the parallelogram. And if I want to print the area of circle is, if I want to print the output, then also I have to use the parallelogram. Similarly we have a rectangle. So rectangle is for any kind of calculations or the assignments you have to predict in the form of flow chart, then you depict in the form of flow chart, then you have to use this rectangle for the calculation. That is area is equal to 3.142 into r into r, and then circumference is equal to 2 into pi, that is 3.142 into r. So all that calculation should be included in this particular symbol, which is called as rectangle. Then we have the rhombus. Like for example, if decision making, previous slide I showed, if A is greater than B, isn't it you are making the decision whether a certain set of statements should be executed or not. In such way, whenever you have to make any kind of decision, then you are using a symbol, that is what? Rhombus you are using. Then we have what? Sub-program. Suppose if I have to write any sub-function, I think in the structure of C++ program we have like subroutine. Am I right? Function f1, f2 up to fn. Suppose if we have any sub-function in my program, then I can depict it by this particular symbol, which is known as predefined process. Then for loop, if I am using, specifically if I am using a control structure known as for loop. Now what is the use of this for loop? It helps you to repeat certain set of instructions, certain set of number times it will help you to repeat it, okay, or repeat those set of instructions continuously for certain number of times. In that case, I have to use in this particular symbol which stands for preparation. I cannot change the names, neither I can change the symbols, okay. And then we have the connection. Suppose, okay, suppose when you are drawing the flow chart, if it ends at one point of a time and you want to continue it in the next page, in that case, to show the continuation and the connection, I am using the connector, that is, it shows in terms of circle. Then I want to show the control flow, how the control is making the change from which from which step to which step. If I want to show the connection flow, then I have to use the arrow mark. So leaving this part, when I look at this, automatically I can make out this is a beginning of the program. I'll see that if any input or output I can do here. If any calculations I should perform, I should use this particular symbol. Decision making, if it is there, I have to use the rhombus. Predefined process, if any subroutines are there, then use it, otherwise no. Then this is for loop, that is for the preparation, connector. So you have to remember these symbols because they are used to draw the flow chart. Now coming to the program here, coming to the first topic, that is the if statement. Now before I start with the if statement, so there are types of control statements. Okay, there are types of the control statement. Basically we have three types, okay. Control statements also you can refer, or you can also refer to the control structures. We have three types. The first one is the selection statement, and the second one is the iteration statements, and the third one is the jumping statements. Under the selection statement, what exactly this selection statement? Selection statements allows you to select a statement or a set of statements for the execution based upon the condition. Now here I can show you. Now this I can say it is a selection statement. I can say this if is a selection statement because this if statement is allowing you to select certain set of statement to get executed or not based upon this particular given condition. Therefore, this is nothing but the selection statement. So, under the selection statements, again we have four types, that is the simple if statement, if else statement, and nested if, and the switch statement. So, all these comes under the selection statements. So, in that the first selection statement, so remember the term selection is nothing but it is helping you to select a statement or a set of statement for execution purpose based upon certain condition. So, under that the first one selection statement is a simple if statement. The first one is simple if statement. Now look at this part. What it is simple if statement? Simple if statement can also be referred to as one-way branching. Very, very important question. Okay, they may ask you which structure is called as one-way branching. Then you have to write it as a simple if statement, or only if statement is also fine. Okay, the simple if statement is referred to as one-way branching. Then why we have to use this if statement? For what reason we have to use? Because it is helping you to decide whether a statement or a set of statements should be executed or no. Isn't it? In this programming I am using the simple if statement. This if statement is helping us to decide whether this particular set of statement has to be executed or not. So that is the reason why we are using the simple if statement. Then how it is working? It is working based upon certain condition which can be evaluated either for the true or false. That means what? Now what is the condition here? The condition is whether A is greater than B. So based upon this condition, okay, it is evaluating wherein it refers to be evaluating for the two values, that is for either it should be true or either it should be false. I hope you are able to understand. Now when we start with the programming examples, no, you can clearly understand what is the if statement. Now look at this. Now this is a flow chart. So why did I show the flow chart? Because you should understand the symbols. Now this is the general syntax of simple if statement. Now this is also the general syntax of if statement when we are having compound statement or the block. Now this is the general syntax of simple if statements when we have just a simple statement wherein it could be an input statement, it could be an output statement, or it could be any of the assignment statement. Now let us understand how exactly the simple if statement works. So usually the given condition will be always evaluated for either for true or false. True refers to 1 and false refers to the 0. Now if this given condition, if it is true, the statement 1 is executed. Remember, if this given condition is true, the statement 1 is executed. What if the condition if it is false? If the condition if it is a false, then it has a value of 0 and the statement 1 will not be executed. In fact, the control jumps to the next statement. Remember, this simple if statement is being called as the one-way branching statement. It is called as one-way branching statement, and usually this simple if condition works upon the either true or false. So true is nothing but 1, false is nothing but 0. How it will work? Let us know this explanation because it is very important from your exam point of view. This simple if statement, if the condition if it is true, then statement 1 is executed, else the control goes to the, that is statement 2. And then remember, always the condition has to be enclosed under the parenthesis, that is condition, or also you can refer, or you can even refer it as a expression. The condition or the expression has to be always included in the parameters, and the statement 1 will be executed only when the condition if it is true. Otherwise, if the condition is false, then the control skips the step 1 and the execution goes to the next statement in the block, that is the execution comes for the statement 2. I hope you are able to understand the working. Now let us see this particular flow chart. So what does this arrow indicates? Arrow indicates it is what is a connectivity. Am I right? So it shows the control flow. So control. Now if, as I said, it's a decision making statement. Am I right? So in as per this chart, what is a decision making? Which symbol I should use? I should use the rhombus. So here is the rhombus. Now this is a condition. That means how if condition it is. When I am representing in the form of the flow chart, I should write, instead of if, I should write is condition question mark. Is condition. If this is condition if it is true, then it will execute me what? The statement 1 it will execute. Look at this. If is given condition if it is true, then the statement 1 will be executed. Else, obviously if condition if it is not true, either only 2 chances are there. Definitely the condition would become false. When the condition becomes false, where does your control jumps? Your control actually jumps to the, that is next statement, or it jumps to the statement 2. Now look at here, and as per this point what it is saying, if is a condition. If this condition if it is true, since we are using the block, since we are using this number of statements which are being enclosed under the, that is the flower brackets, then this if condition takes in consideration that if this condition is true, then all the statements are executed. If this condition is false, automatically the control jumps to the out of this particular loop. The control will never make an entry into this loop and never it will execute any false statement. This is what is about the flow chart. Now here this representation is that way only. This is the program segment. The same thing I am representing in the flow chart. So is condition question mark, is condition in question mark means whether it is true or false, it will evaluate by itself internally. So if is condition if it is true, this T refers to true. If it is true, then what are the true part of this particular condition? That is statement 1, statement 2 and statement n. So all those statements to be considered as true. What if this condition is false? If this condition is false, then automatically the control goes to the next statement to execute. That means control is coming from this point to this point. It is if it is connecting in the sense what? That is, the control is executing next thing is next statement. It is not joining here. Okay, if this condition is true, then these statements are executed. Else, the control directly goes to the executions of the false statement or the next statement. Students, I hope you are able to understand. So, in my next video class, in detail I'll explain with an example, programming example, how to execute and how to make use of this particular if statement. Once again, I would like to revise and refresh for 2 minutes, and then we shall proceed with the further topics. Till that, take care of yourself, students, and keep studying and preparing for your midterm examination. Thank you, students.